Welcome to today's lesson, which is about actor empowerment in the value chain. In the previous lesson, we defined and discussed some terms related to value chain approach, such as actors. And we defined actors as those involved in producing, processing, trading, or consuming a particular agricultural product. And these include direct and indirect actors. Direct actors are commercially involved in the chain, such as producers, traders, literals, as well as consumers. While indirect actors provide financial or non-financial support services. Here we are talking of the bankers and credit agencies, business service providers, government, researchers, as well as extensionists. We also defined a supply chain as a set of linkages between actors where there are no binding or sought after formal or informal relationships, except when goods, services, and financial agreements are actually transacted. And a value chain as a specific type of a supply chain where the actors actively seek to support each other so they can increase their efficiency and competitiveness. The actors invest time, effort, and money and build relationships with other actors to reach a common goal of satisfying consumer needs in order to increase their profits. A value chain was defined as the full range of activities which are required to bring a product or service from conception through the intermediary phases of production, delivery to final consumers, and final disposal after use. Okay, to make this happen, both direct and indirect actors are involved. So the empowerment of these actors in the value chain is vital for sustainability. Confronted by short project timeframes and limited funding, some development organizations often make the mistake of trying to intervene too much in performing chain activities and chain management. So when the project finishes and the development organizations withdraws, the value chain is left without a key link. So it collapses. So actors in the value chain should be enabled to take over the management of the chain rather than allowing development organizations to do it for sustainability. Intermediate organizations should aim instead to support farmer organizations like the cooperatives to strengthen their capacity to manage chains or chain activities. They should embrace the following principles before engaging smallholders in a value chain development process: sustainable businesses, equity, inclusion and exclusion, gender responsiveness, and social responsibility. This helps in ensuring that interventions target development objectives such as equity, gender, sustainable development, and poverty reduction. The day-to-day work of supporting the integration of small-scale farmers into supply chains is very practical. It may involve identifying a buyer of a product, solving a quality problem, or improving packaging. So small-scale farmers who are the direct actors in the value chain can participate in value chains in many different ways. And these types of participation can be summarized into two broad dimensions, such as the types of activities that farmers undertake in the chain, and secondly, the involvement of the farmer in the management of the chain. In a typical situation, farmers as direct actors usually concern themselves only with production, like they prepare the land, plant the seeds, apply fertilizer, control pests and weeds, and harvest the crop when it is mature. But they can also be involved in other activities, for example, drying their crop, sorting and grading, processing, transporting, and trading. And these are the main chain activities. So, if farmers are being involved in various activities other than production only, is known as vertical integration. So, the vertical line in your nose shows that farmers are specialized in production and involved in production only at the bottom. So we want our farmers to move upwards. That is from just focusing on production only to production as well as performing other chain activities like sorting of products, grading, and many more chain activities. Vertical integration is the process in which several steps in the production and distribution of a product or service are controlled by a single company. In this case, we can refer to farmers or farmer organizations such as cooperatives in order to increase their power in the marketplace. Okay, can you think of a product? Any product that is. You can come to know that every single product that you can think of has a big life cycle. So, while you might recognize the product with the brand name printed on it, many companies are involved in developing that product. But these companies are necessarily not part of the brand you see. Let me give you an example of Malambe juice produced by a certain agricultural cooperative. The brand that you see on the bottle of Malambe juice is the producer of the drink, but not necessarily the maker of the bottles that carry Malambe juice. This task of creating bottles is outsourced to others who can do it better and at a cheaper cost. But once the cooperative achieves significant scale, it might plan to produce the bottles itself, as it might have its own advantages. This is what we call vertical integration. The cooperative company tries to get more things under their reign to gain more control over the profits the product or service delivers. Here, the focus is for the farmers to be involved in other activities other than production for profitability. Vertical integration allows the company or farmer groups to control the distribution or supply of its goods. Okay, let's also look at this example. The manufacturing of chocolate has many stages of the supply chain. Two of which are the processing of cocoa beans and another to manufacture the final chocolate bar. Vertical integration occurs when the chocolate manufacturer purchases a cocoa bean processor that is buying its beans from. As a result, the manufacturer can pay exactly the marginal cost rather than profiting the processor. In turn, consumers may see lower prices in a competitive marketplace. There are three types of vertical integration. The first one is forward vertical integration. The second one is backward vertical integration. And lastly, number three is balanced integration. Forward vertical integration is whereby farmers or produce organizations tries to control the post-production areas, namely the distribution network. This occur after production or manufacturing a product. It involves a form of downstream vertical integration whereby farmers owns and controls business activities that are ahead in the value chain. It might include, among others, direct distribution or supply of crops or products to retail shops. For example, if farmers want to implement forward vertical integration, typically the farmers sell their crops to a distribution company, which then sells the crops to grocery stores. To move down the supply chain, the farmer decides to start selling crops directly to the grocery stores, increasing their profits by removing the cost of working with a distribution company. A farmer that is a producer of vegetables directly sells his products at the farmer's market. Backward integration is also known as upstream integration, and this type of vertical integration is quite common. It is known as backward vertical integration because the film is behind in the supply chain. So, in a basic supply chain of raw material extraction, manufacturing, and distribution, the distributor could merge with the raw material extractor or the manufacturer. This is because they are at the stage behind in the supply chain. It is where a company joins with another which is at the stage before itself in the supply chain. In other words, it integrates with one of its suppliers. This is good for farmers or groups engaging in processing for the supply of raw materials. For example, a cooperative which owns a bakery that makes bread need wheat as a raw material and actually depends on its suppliers for the supply of wheat. Instead, the cooperative decides to buy its own wheat farm. You can see that this is happening before the main product is made, which is bread. Okay, let's also consider this scenario. A car manufacturing company which depends on another company for the supply of tires and batteries as raw materials, but decides to have its own tire and battery manufacturing firm. Another example can be that of Lilongwe Dairy, which is a processor of milk products and depends on others for the supply of raw material, which is milk. Instead, the company owns its own dairy farm or buys the supplier of raw materials to be part of the company. You can see that this is happening before the main products like cream, for example, is made. Sometimes the distributor, that is after manufacturing, could still merge with the raw material extractor or the manufacturer. This is still backwards integration as long as this is happening backwards. You can also think of a processing company, for example, peanut butter making company, which relies on producer organizations for the supply of groundnuts as raw material, and the company decides to open its own groundnut farm. Balanced vertical integration is now both ways, meaning to say it's quite simply a combination of both backward and forward integration. Balanced integration would be where a company merges with both a company that is before it in the supply chain as well as one that is after. For example, a manufacturer of a certain product merges with a raw material extractor as well as a distributor. A cooperative owning a bakery, for example, may own a wheat farm for raw materials or buys a supplier of raw materials. In this case, we are talking of backward integration. At the same time, controls post-production activities. In this case, we are now talking of forward integration. A complete vertical integration occurs when a company owns every stage of the production process, that is from raw materials to finished goods or services. So it is good to encourage our farmers or farmer cooperatives or processing firms to move towards that for profitability. Otherwise, if the focus will be on production only, our farmers will not be successful. In your notes, you can read on the key differences between forward and backward vertical integration, as well as their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, let me explain on horizontal integration. Mostly, farmers may be excluded from any decision making about issues that affect them, even over what crops they grow or what animals they raise. Someone else instead may make these decisions, then inform the farmers, or the farmers may have a high degree of control over management. They may be able to decide how much they sell, to whom, and at what price. They may control the terms of payment, the definition of grades and standards, the targeting of consumers, the management of innovations, and so on. These aspects are termed as chain management. So, involvement of the farmer in the management of the chain is known as horizontal integration. So farmers are supposed to be highly involved in various chain activities as well as managing the chain. The horizontal line in your notes shows that farmers do not participate and are not involved in chain management. That is the left side of it. So we want our farmers to move rightwards and be involved in managing main aspects of the chain. The figure in your notes shows the forms of chain participation by smallholder farmers. That is the four quadrants. And a farmer can be located anywhere within the large gray rectangle. For example, A farmer may start off at the bottom left corner of the rectangle. He begins grading his product. Doing so moves him a little upwards in the rectangle, so increasing his vertical integration because he adds an activity. He also moves a little to the right, reflecting greater chain management because he improves quality management, but he remains within the area of chain actor. So if the same farmer later starts processing and packaging his product, he may move into the activity integrator segment, or he and his neighbors may organize as a group and negotiate deals with traders, input suppliers, and credit agencies, and may start working with the local research institute to test new technologies. This would move them into the chain partner quadrant 3. So a combination of vertical, which is more activities, and horizontal, which is more management movements, would push the farmers into the chain co-ownership quadrant 4. This is vital for our farmers to take control of chain activities and the management of the chain. So it is good to encourage our farmers or farmer cooperatives or processing firms to move towards that for profitability. Lastly, based on your understanding of this lesson, try to answer these questions. Why smallholder farmers are encouraged to pursue forward vertical integration? Why most companies should pursue backward integration? Why challenge What challenges do farmers face due to backward integration, and what challenges do farmers may face due to forward integration? Thank you for your attention.